Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about the comic book industry in 2025 going into 2026. And it's really interesting for all the talk of how amazing DC's Absolute line is doing. A lot of comic book creators aren't feeling too good about the industry right now. They said things are not great. They're fearing 2026. They think there's going to be a lot of industry contraction and publishers going out of business. Pretty much everything that we've said.
Yeah, well, Diamond doesn't help. That whole situation there where they kept people's stuff and sold it. Like, there's a lot of reasons that are leading to this. And contrary to some people who like to get their panties in a twist, and yes, it's panties for them, this is just common sense. It's obvious.
Yeah, and look, I want to restate for those of you who are new or who aren't paying attention or who are willfully ignoring the fact that we worked in the comic book industry for years. Mm-hmm. We know a lot of people in the comic book industry still, and everybody we've talked to said, yeah, things are bad. That's not good. Yeah. And shop owners, there are, I'm sure, exceptions. I'm sure the shops that are selling Pokemon cards are doing very, very well, right now. But people aren't going to shop specifically to buy comic books, regardless of what other people are trying to say. And, it's something they pick up, I think. Yeah, at least not new comic books, but it's something they pick up when they're there for their Magic cards or their, Funko Pops or whatever the hell it is. The Wednesday Warriors are done. It's over. So let's talk about where things go from here. Now, I want to preface this. I mean, I know it sounds a little doom and gloom. I think comics as an art form will be fine. I think the comic book art form will be fine. How consumers consume it will change. And when we're talking the comic book industry, we're talking floppy comics. We're not talking manga. Manga's fine. Manga's real fine.
Manga's doing great.
Yeah, manga's doing great. Graphic novels, trades, I think they're doing great. We're talking monthly floppy comic books. They're not doing so hot. So let's talk about all this before we get into it any further. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Guys, you'll get woohoo if you do.
Woohoo.
Go out to more.clownfishtv.com. That's more.clownfishtv.com for more Clownfish TV. So thank you very much for that. So there's before we get into what the creators are saying, there's a lot of discussion about the sales numbers, and I covered this in another video that they're trying to say that Absolute Batman is selling, I think, 300,000 copies.
I saw that, like, people were talking about it on social media, and I was like, well, that's a huge upswing.
Yeah, I am having a hard time believing. I mean, I'm not I know it's popular, relatively speaking, right? But the numbers come from DC Comics internally. So it's trust me, bro. They're selling 300,000 copies an issue.
See, I don't understand. Okay, so the first issue of Absolute Batman is so well, and now it's the 10th printing. Well, the latest issue is okay. So it's had 10th printings of the first one, so obviously there's audience for it.
Yeah.
But why would number 15 suddenly have so many orders?
Well, they're trying to say that it's been selling this well the whole time.
Okay,
and
then why? Okay, maybe it is, but why weren't they all you'd think all the outlets, news outlets, would be touting that this whole time?
Well, okay, so here's what I think is going on. This is speculation on my part.
Please explain it to me. I don't know anything about comics book sales for the mainstream because I don't know as much as you about comic book sales for the mainstream.
I think what's going on is there are all these puff pieces that have been coming out since the discussion of the Netflix Warner Brothers deal.
Okay.
I think DC Comics is living on borrowed time as a publisher.
Case building.
They're case building. They're trying to say you need to keep us as a publisher. We need to publish our own stuff in-house because the alternative, and that was one of the first things that people speculate on, the alternative is that Netflix outsources the Warner Brothers material to another publisher, which they already do with Dark Horse right now. Mm-hmm. They publish a lot of the Netflix comics. And I could totally see them being like, you know what, comic books, the margins are not there. Let's stop publishing our own comics in-house. We'll save a lot of money if we just let, Dark Horse publish, 12 DC superhero comics a month or whatever, which means a lot of people will be out of work, right? A lot of people will be out of work. I think this is case building. They're trying to say, oh my God, guys, you can't shut us down because Absolute Batman, the Absolute line is doing so damn well. And there's a whole marketing machine behind it. Social media, everybody's like, it's the best thing. I've never read a comic ever. I'm reading Absolute Batman. I'm like, I I don't know if I believe that. I mean, I think
didn't
it's
read
doing
it, so
well,
I don't know.
but the numbers are coming from DC. Now, here's the advantage that DC and Marvel have because of the pandemic breaking the comic book industry. You have to just kind of trust me. Trust me, the numbers are fine. Numbers are good because we don't have any external verification. They're going by Comic Hub, which is this very small sampling. It's like 100 shops or 120 shops.
Well, they were
or
restricting the people that could see that information now. Weren't they restricting that information? Was that Comic Hub they were restricting?
That was, I thought that was Nielsen's, I think was
It
one
wasn't
of them.
Nielsen's. I know one of them.
Or Circana
you had
or
to have a
something like that,
subscription to be able to know what it was.
And
I
it's
don't
so
remember
weird.
which one it was.
Yeah, I think it was Circana, and I think it was the Beat used to get for free, and now they're not. And they're like, oh yeah, it's too expensive. I went out and looked. It's like $1,000 a year or $2,000 a year or something like that. I'm like, for most businesses, that's nothing. They spend more than that on toilet paper. But for comic book related businesses, that's going to break the freaking bank, right? I'm like, come on. So yeah, I don't know. I have doubts because there's also the Youngblood situation too, where Rob Liefeld flat out said Youngblood is outselling so many of these other comics, and the sales numbers are not accurate because he knows that it was like the biggest selling title for Image that month, and they had like number 8 on the list, and they had other books. He said, I know I outsold these books, so what the hell's going on here? Long and short of it is, I think it is case building to some degree. Now, I do believe the Absolute line is selling well. I just don't think it's selling as well.
Well, where are they getting the number from? Is this like comic shop orders? Is this like orders through like Amazon or other means? Because if it's comic shops, I don't believe it. But if it's allowing other
trades, I would
means
believe.
too.
Trades, I would believe, because I think a lot of people, especially for now, or if they're new readers, they're going to wait for the trade.
I'd wait for the trade because to me, I'm just like, why spend all the money?
I normally do now. Anyway, I'm going to be honest anymore, since I am a comic book reader more so than a collector. I usually wait for the trade because they're more durable, and I know I'm going to get at least a complete chunk. Plus, I'm spoiled by manga. I'm used to paying $10 and getting 150, 200 pages of stuff. Now you pay $5 and you get like 20 pages.
I'm just cheap. Like this is why I don't drink when I go out, because I'm just cheap. Like to me, just like 20-some pages for $5 seems like a complete rip. If you just wait, you can get like a $20 or $25 trade that has like a whole bunch of stuff in it.
Yeah, and that's like the Energon universe. Like you can get the whole first volume for like $11-12 on Amazon, and
see, like that.
Yeah, and it's a nice, satisfying chunk of comics, right? And I'm not saying the comics are bad. I'm not saying, blah, 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 whatever. People have these gaslighting, bad faith arguments. I'm just telling you what I'm seeing from a business perspective. Now, Fandom Pulse had this, and I can't verify this. They claim they have an insider at DC that is telling them that the real numbers are a lot lower. They're like 60 to 70,000 for Absolute Batman, which is their best-selling book, which means DC's best-selling.
That's significantly lower. That's like a third.
That's not good if that is the case. Now, but the problem is you have to lower your expectations with comic shops, because back in the day, 300,000 would get you canceled. I know.
I thought that when I saw it. I'm like, that's a win. A few years ago, that would have been like, oh, you're cut.
Jim Lee's X-Men back in the 90s sold like 8 or 10 million copies. So I guess it's relatively speaking, congratulations, you're the king of the crap, I guess. Like you've won. But again, that doesn't mean the books are bad. That doesn't mean that they're not selling well, relatively speaking. It's just I don't think there are enough comic shops to warrant that. So I believe what's going on, at least in the sales, that we're going to see, especially DC and Marvel, because they're both owned by corporations. I think we're going to see some fudging of the numbers to justify the continued existence of these companies as publishers. That's what I think is going on.
We know that, like, not comics per se, but like people were, fudging numbers and, buying their own books and things to make things look like they were bigger for other books or to get on the New York Times bestseller list and things like that. So if they manipulate that, I mean, they obviously can manipulate this easily too.
Yeah. So that's one part of it. So that's kind of where leading into this. So this is the Beat, and they do this every year, and they've been doing this for a long time. And I'm not going to slam them for this. I think it's actually good to see where the comic book industry actually is. They ask a bunch of creators, what was the biggest story of 2025, and what do you think is going to happen in 2026?
Oh, I love these segments. Yes, they do them every year. Yeah.
And the recurring theme, and this is coming from a lot of people currently working in the industry, the recurring theme is fear. They're afraid that the comic book industry is imploding. They're afraid they're not going to have work next year. If things are so damn good in comics right now, why are so many people, almost all of them, why are they afraid of the future?
I would tell you, like I told people that do Hollywood stuff and that do animation, you might want to pivot.
Yeah. So people think like we got kicked out of comics or whatever. That is not what happened. Actually,
I don't know where I got that idea.
I don't
we
know.
made it very clear why we don't do comics. There was no money in it.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. And I remember specifically sitting there I was working on some Disney comics, and I'm like, I am literally losing money working on these comics. As much as I love doing it, I'm losing money because that time could go to like web development or something that pays a shit ton more.
After you spent so many hours in the book for what you got paid, you're like, I could literally work at McDonald's and make more money than I'm making doing this for the honor of doing it. We weren't like, you weren't never ungrateful for the chance because you were very excited to do it. And it was me who actually pushed you to keep doing it. But and the amount of time it takes for the hours to the pay ratio, you literally could work at a minimum wage job and get paid as much, if not more, than you're getting for what you're getting. But these pages and stuff you were doing.
Yeah, and that's what I try to get across to people too, is that you can love comics, you can be good at making comics, whatever, but the reality is that it doesn't pay much. And I think that a lot of these things are connected. I think a lot of the people, and I'm not saying that people working in comics now are not talented. I'm not saying that at all. There are some very, very talented people that are working in comics currently.
Doesn't matter how talented you are. If it's not going to work, it's not going to work.
If the market's not there, right? But beyond that, I think a lot of the people that were able to get out of comics, people ask like, where's this artist or that artist, that worked in the 90s and the 2000s, and God, they were so incredible. Why are they not working in comics? Because it wasn't worth it. They could go work in Hollywood or work in video games and make a shit ton more money. Mm-hmm. And that's it. And when you start to think like a business person, I know everybody wants to be artsy fartsy, but when you think like a business person, you're like, I need to maximize the revenue I'm making in the amount of time I have to make it, especially when you're working in a creative field and everybody is on a limited, you all have a limited shelf life, right? Everybody does. So they asked a couple people here, and they're talking about, like what were the biggest stories? And this is, who is this one here? We'll go through them. Most of them is Steve Fox. Okay. So he's an editor. He said, what's going to be the biggest story in 2026? He'd like Vertigo to come back. And he said that there need to be more viable avenues for original voices in monthly adult comics, and we need them to be competitive. So he wants Vertigo to come back. But I don't think that's going to happen at all. No. So he's pretty long-winded. But this is, let's see, Louis Southard, writer. And what was the biggest story? Without a shadow of a doubt, the collapse of Diamond.
I would agree.
Yep.
That was probably the biggest one, yeah.
Publishers, creators, and comic book store owners were all the victim of essentially a monopoly rolling over and dying in front of us. Oh my God, guys. Oh my God. if only somebody told you that's what's going on. I don't think I've met a single comic shop owner who hasn't been stressed out over the damage control to get their businesses back on track. Can I highlight this? Because I know when we told people, now we didn't have a comic shop per se, but we had a geek emporium, anime shop. We sold graphic novels and manga. We never got into monthlies because there was no point. I'm very glad we didn't. But we did sell Diamond toys and stuff like that. When I told people that things were not good, when we've talked to other shop owners and they're like, things are not good, they said we're lying.
They always say we're lying. Our coin jar is pretty full though, so...
Yeah, right. It's very sad in a lot of ways, but I hope this vacuum leads to newfound creativity with how we can get more comics in the hands of people. Well, one thing that they're doing, which I think is good, it's good and bad. They've got comic shops in Sheets now. All the Sheets I've been to have DC Comics. They have a stand with DC Comics. The bad news is they're all #1 issues. And so I think what they're doing is they're selling the #1s, hoping you'll seek out #2, #3, whatever. And it's just a whole bunch of #1s.
Yeah, that's not gonna.
No, and
that's not gonna last.
And I don't think they're selling that. I'm gonna be honest. I don't think they're selling that well. The ones I've been to, there's still a bunch of them there, and they're the same ones that've been there for like 6 months. I will give them props for trying, but if you're gonna do that, you need to go back to the latest issue is on the stands every month.
Yeah, no, you could do one, but then whatever's the most recent one too. I was just thinking about, you have to get creative to get the comments back. People, I think they've been needing to do that for years because having one source was always a bad idea. I remember back when you met me and I asked you, I was like, well, how does that make sense? There's just one. And you're like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, what happens if they go under?
Well,
I don't know.
Found out.
And I'm like, that was a really bad idea. As somebody who wasn't even into comics, didn't know anything about comics really, I was like, that doesn't even make any sense. That's stupid. So I think creativity and, necessity is the mother of all invention. I think that might be an opportunity.
Yeah.
But you have to have people interested in comics to make it an opportunity. But that's a whole other, discussion.
That's true. What's the biggest comics industry story of 2026, they think? Honestly, he said, I hope in 2026 we see a return of stability for independent series from upcoming creators. Nowadays, we're all fighting for a spot at the table, and I find it upsetting that people of all ages who want to break in have less of a chance than ever because there aren't enough readers to sustain it.
I would disagree that they have less of a chance than ever. I'll tell you why. Less of a chance than ever in the medium that they like because the problem with it for years, it was locked down. It was always like the same people always got it was really hard to get in. I'd say it was harder to get in then than it is now. It's just that there's alternate ways to get in now. You could build up your own things with webcomics and all that. And we came from the webcomics, front to where we are now. I think there's more opportunity than less. It's just that there's less opportunity for making a lot of money. Not that there was ever a good opportunity for that. Unless you were one of the top names, you weren't making money either. Except the 90s on, it's not been great.
No, it has not been great.
The option to get in, I think there's more opportunity for people than ever. But it's like, the pie shrunk, so everybody gets a smaller piece.
This is a owner publicist of Don't Hide PR, Melissa Mazzaros. I'm not sure, but she said the biggest story was more people going to Kickstarter. Basically, it's replacing Diamond, I think.
That isn't just this year.
No, it's been going on for a long time. A lot of people act like
that's not new.
A lot of people act like crowdfunding's new. It's like it's been around for like 15 years now. Like,
I know they're acting like they're all going there. It's like they've been.
Let's see here. This is Byron O'Neill, journalist, editor-in-chief. What was the biggest story? The success of Absolute. What's going to be the biggest story of 2026? Redacted comics publisher bites the dust.
Oh, okay.
Probably. Probably. I think it's going to be a bunch of them. Is this Maya Kobabe, author? What was the biggest story of 2025? They said the attack against free speech, Visa, MasterCard, and book bannings and stuff.
The book bannings in the schools. Okay, you know what?
That's okay. She's the one that did genderqueer. That's
you know what? Okay, sit down, sweet pea. Here's the thing. I don't think that they should ban books in libraries. I mean, if you want to put in library and people want to take it out, I know that's fine. If they're putting it in schools, it needs to be age appropriate. And I'm sorry, a lot of these books were being put in grade levels that was not age appropriate. Now, high school and stuff like that, yeah, I get it. But you're putting them in grades that were not age appropriate.
No.
So you know what? Yeah, they totally should have banned those books from schools. Just like they would. I would say to ban any other explicitly whatever material from schools. But libraries, no, they shouldn't be banning them from libraries because libraries should be a source for all this stuff. Even if you don't agree with it, everybody should have the opportunity to go look into it. But school libraries is a different story. And you know what? I'm sorry. Boo-hoo, cry me a river. Don't make books that are questionable and push them to children. Problem solved.
Shannon Garrity's concerned about AI. They said, what's going to be the biggest story in 2026? It'd be cool to stick to the AI companies that scraped our work. Let's do that.
This sounds like there's a lot of answers. There's a couple people answered, I think, honestly and thoughtfully. But most of these people are just using it to promote their own shit. And then, politics.
Yeah. So this is Daniel Calbon, writer. I'm not sure who he is. He's talking about, doing Kickstarter stuff. Okay, what was the biggest story in 2025? Diamond's utter collapse and bankruptcy. Yeah, it's still chaos stemming out from there. Oh, gosh, guys, I heard everything was fine. What's going to be the biggest story in 2026? Other than the continuation of the Diamond aftermath, potentially how the various publishers pivot and react to the continued fallout, and which of the smaller publishers will survive. Marvel and DC. Yeah, this sounds very much like what we've been saying. Marvel and DC aren't going to go away anytime soon, but it's the little guys who will definitely suffer, which means there's going to be less work overall because how many people can work on the Absolute books?
I don't think it's just the little guys that are going to suffer. I think a lot of the big people are going to suffer too. And I mean, of course, if they're suffering, then obviously the little guys are suffering. But people are going to have to get creative and find new ways is what's going to happen.
This is Brian Garside who says, The biggest story of 2025 was the Diamond bankruptcy and dissolution of
these are
Diamond.
people who are actually thinking and not just trying to promote their own personal politics.
What's the biggest comics industry story in 2026? The ongoing distributor shakeout and new players. Old players continue to evolve, and companies like Alliance get involved in our industry. Let's see here. This is Tom Akel, who was at Marvel for a while, and he was in charge of Webtoon for a while. What was the biggest story in 2025? The only real answer this year has to be the collapse of Diamond. What's going to be the biggest story in 2026? Lots of fun bets to make here, but I'll go with whatever happens to DC when the dust settles on the Warner Brothers acquisition.
Agreed.
Let's see here. This is more like indie stuff.
Again, they agree about they said about Diamond.
Yes, is Ivanka Honenberger, who says, "What's the biggest story of 2026? I fear it may be the number of publishers that collapse."
You know, I'm sorry. I'm just looking at these people. Like, where are they getting some of these people? Like, you know, you have a couple people that have street cred and have been around for a while, and you're asking them, and then they have like, this is so and so who wrote this book that you never heard of.
I know,
here's
right?
Their opinion.
Robert Myers from Bad Egg says, what's going to be the biggest story in 2026? Level setting in the overall industry from a distribution sales standpoint. Liz Francis, publisher, Street Noise Books, says, what's going to be the biggest story in 2026? Hopefully it will be the more cons and festivals that will have funding to give out to allow small indie publishers to travel and table.
Here's the thing. If you're a small indie publisher, you want to travel and table. Yeah, it sucks. Things are expensive. You share a table with friends. That's how you do it. We used to have to do it, and some of those costs were ridiculous, and we still managed to work it out. If you want to go, it is what it is. So I think the things are overpriced. Yeah. But if you really want to be there and you want to spend your time there, which I don't honestly think it does you much good most of the time, then share the cost with friends. Split the table.
Yeah, but I don't know what people. I mean, this is a whole other rant. I don't know what people hope to get from tabling. Nobody gets.
You don't get deals like that anymore.
No, it doesn't work that way anymore. This is another guy's Brian Fees. He says, "What's the biggest comic story in 2025? Readership is up. Diamond is out. We had the French festival implode. Jimmy Palmiotti, who said, what was the biggest story in 2025? Sadly, the mess of Diamond." Yep, and the impact of smaller companies. People don't understand that. They're like, well, Marvel and DC are fine. Absolute's fine. That's great. What about everybody else? Like, that makes up like the top 10, 20% of the comic book industry. What about everybody else? What's the biggest story in 2026? OAX and comic art fans will be the big news, seeing original comic book art reach new highs. There's more people getting into the hobby of collecting comic book art every day. Well, yeah,
I don't think that's the biggest story. Sorry.
No. I'm sorry. I actually
like
Jimmy
Palmiotti. Do we read more?
No, we don't. It's just there's a lot
that's the
of.
end. Okay.
That is the end. But look, I think everybody can agree that Diamond imploding is not good.
That is definitely the biggest story of the last year.
And 2026 has a huge question mark on it, right? And so this is part 1 of 2. I'm kind of curious who else they're going to get, but
we'll do another video later.
We'll do a follow-up, but yeah, we're going to wrap this up, guys. There's a bit of validation here because a lot of these people are echoing what we've been saying, which is you cannot overstate how catastrophic Diamond imploding is going to be in the long run for the comic book industry, for shops. And also, it's going to be really tough to be a comic book artist going forward. You're going to have to get creative. You're not going to be able to just go get a job at the comic book factory because
you can always do what a lot of people did that got publishing deals because they give you such a low, what they call that, the advance.
Yeah, they're horrible.
A lot of people work a job and they do comics on the side. And it might be, if you're not doing that already, you might want to look into doing that if it means you get to keep your place to live and everything else. It's just, if you want to do it, it's going to have to be looked at more as a extra than it is as a career, at least the way it's going right now.
Right.
For most people.
For most people. We're going to wrap this up?
Yes.
Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk later.
Bye.